everybody. Welcome to the 2022 Undergraduate Research Conference. We have an excellent lineup of student presentations, and I'm excited to welcome you all and get started. This is our third year having the conference, but our first year offering hybrid and asynchronous presentations. So in order to have the best conference experience possible, I want to go over just a couple of things before we get started. If you're attending virtually, you will have seen, hopefully, that the links to all of the sessions are available on the Athena Commons website under each of the session names. And we ask you to mute yourself while the presenters are talking. If you have questions for the presenters, you can use the chat at any time to ask them, or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself to talk at the Q&A sessions. Are here in person and you have a question, please raise your hand during the Q&A session and a moderator will give you a microphone so all in attendance can hear. All the presentations are recorded and posted to the conference page in Athena Commons in the days following this event. For all in attendance, we ask you to complete a survey before you leave. You can find print copies at the registration table out front and in the front of this room. Or you can use the QR code on the back of the conference program or on the sandwich boards outside and fill it out with your phone. Links to the conference survey will also be posted in Zoom chat after each session. The program today, which I'm also holding up in my hand, is also posted online under where it says 2022 conference program. So each of the links to those are again here. And you can also find print programs out front. I would like to make a correction to the print program. However, the one online is correct, but the one in print has the 2 o'clock session and the 11 o'clock session swapped. So I'll point that out to you on this page. It's swapped. Please make note of that if you plan on attending either the 2 o'clock or the 11 o'clock session. Okay, really quickly for some thank yous. Thank you to the members of the Undergraduate Research Advisory Committee who've helped steer the plans for today and support the mission of the Undergraduate Research Office through upcoming program. If you'd like to get involved in any of these upcoming activities, they are listed again in the program, both online and in print. Consider checking those out. Thank you to the staff and faculty of Fant Memorial Library, especially Dean Powers, Kelsey Dams, and Linda Morgan for helping facilitate these events. Thank you to Dr. Scott Tollison for his financial support of the Office of Academic Affairs, and both to Dr. Tollison and President Nora Miller for being champions of undergraduate research. Thank you to the faculty volunteers who are evaluating presentations, calculating scores, and encouraging their students to present. And thank you also to our student volunteers who will be moderating panels, who have stuffed registration packets, and who are here supporting their peers and generally making today possible. Thank you. Thank you to all of you who are here, no matter how you're here, however you're here. And I saved the best for last. Thank you to our student presenters who have done amazing work. I am excited you are sharing the fruits of your labor with us today. Kicking us off today is Mr. T.K. Lee, a playwright and poet firmly planted in the Southern tradition of Gothic storytelling. Lee's award-winning work, including short fiction, has appeared in respected national and international publications, been translated into several languages, and garnered a handful of fellowships. Most recently, his play, Paper Thin, received its world premiere last October, and this coming May, he will be the inaugural writer-in-residence for the newly minted Violet Valley Residency, with a focus on crafting voice for emerging LGBTQ+ writers in Mississippi and across the Southeast. It didn't break. Lee is on faculty here in the Department of Languages, Literature, and Philosophy at the historic Mississippi University for Women, teaching undergraduates in creative writing and literature. He also teaches in both of the W's nationally recognized MFA programs in creative writing and theater education. A second collection of poetry, right, Chris? Called Scapegoat will be published this coming September, and his most recent completed project involving research is this, what we're about to hear from him right now. Thank you, Chris.
Sorry about that, and thank you, Hillary. I have been given 10 minutes, which is really about 15 in my language, but I'll to do my best to try and convince you that the path that you're on involving research is a worthwhile one, and it's important and necessary. But I would argue that you already know this, since you are presenting here at a conference specifically created to showcase the various research projects that you've undertaken. And I've also been tasked with the challenge of pointing out the benefits research has in store for the intrepid undergraduate that goes beyond the book, if you will, and possibly toward an active, lifelong relationship with research, or certainly, if not that, at least a healthy awareness of the role that research plays in our lives, because like it or not, in some form or other, research is a here to stay part of your lives. So it would behoove you, as my grandmother would say, to make your peace with it, and the long hours that it often entails, by actively participating in the research process and utilizing your own curiosity as a way to keep it interesting and relevant, and thus, we hope, exciting. But it's a little after 10:30 on a Friday morning, March 25th, and I've only been about 2.5 hours into this new day, and I'll confess, it's an awfully tall order for a morning in which I have just now found the coffee in what is a very magical room of Seminar B. Please check it out with the snacks. And so all of that added to the fact that some of you are probably sitting there thinking, the playwriting guy? For us, why him at an undergraduate research conference? What is it that I could possibly know about the world of research worth imparting to you, a room that I can see is already burgeoning here today with tomorrow's game changers, a room already bright with potential, with the future's historians, biologists, speech pathologists, and many others. And I would say to you, hey, those are really good questions to ask. And so I'm going to start right there at that question by doing what I do best. I dwell in storytelling. So I will tell you a story. And I would say that it's very important to have good questions to ask. I think we could all say it might even be the first rule of research. So I'm going to play you a scene, all right, which I hope will make sense by the time I'm finished talking. And I'll do as we do in theater. I'll find my light. Can I move the podium? Can it turn this way? Does it need to stay this way? Okay. It's just felt a little awkward. Okay. I'm in my light, I hope. And I think now that we can all be on the same page, if we agree that good questions are the first rule of research, then we're all at an A+, and I hope that we can stay there. But let me finish my scene for you. Curtain rises on a charming, dapper-looking youngish man in green glasses at an undergraduate research conference at a wonderful liberal arts university that I would argue is just as charming as he is. And he leans in to find his light. He takes a breath and he speaks, pretending to have been asked a question. So what do I know about research anyway? Well, that I get to in a moment, but I hope it will also be an encouraging talk that is a pep talk of, although difficult to do of any length, that would excite you to any degree further about the world of research you've already entered into. And even though I did think for a second I should pause and let you Google and do a research activity and then answer the question of who it is I think I am, and then saying that out loud scared me. So I thought, no, let's not let you get lost on the information highway. You can do that later. But instead, I don't think it shed very much light on who I am in the first place, but I'll take the back end to this. Who is it that I think I am? That's a hard question. That's good for research. But let me tell you who I think I'm not. This is how I started my own world and journey into research, is that I'm not a rocket scientist, right? I know that's a punchline to a lot of jokes, but I still engage in research daily, even without being a rocket scientist. And I think regardless of where you fall on the research experience scale, didn't most of you hear that word when you were younger and envision a lab of some sort and strangers in lab coats and Bunsen burners and carrying clipboards and chalkboards behind them full of math? A lot of math, it seemed, in the movies, and equations, things that were intimidating, things that would seem unexciting. Well, if we had a sense of humor, we might stop with the scientists that we didn't know. If you had a really good sense of humor, you might even envision me being in a lab coat, mumbling to myself, leaning over a Bunsen burner with vials of smoke bubbling and whatnot. And without, well, minus the lab coat and the clipboard, you're not too far off of how I am on a daily basis. But I think equating words like research with those very specific modes of application is what creates intimidation, which prevents a lot of people from wanting to go further into discovering what it is research has to hold for them. But that's important, right? Rocket scientists are real people, and their research is very important as well. And I did play a scientist once. I wore a lab coat, I had a microscope. But I think if you leave it there, the idea of research with just association only, you are leaving unchecked a whole world that you are learning that is much richer, made the richer by being more lived in from what we learn in our own path to what we study and what we pursue in research. How do we avoid it becoming unexciting? Well, I can't speak for you. I'm stumbling over my words as it is. Coffee should kick in soon, but I think it might be better if I share with you how I avoid it. Recently, I have learned a life lesson of what it means to stay curious. I get angry, people get angry, you get frustrated, you fall behind on a deadline, but by staying curious, we stay invested. We have two eyes, we have two ears, right? I've learned that if I keep one eye and one ear for myself, what I'm interested in pursuing and what I want to write about, and I keep the other eye and the other ear on you, on the public, on what is happening in the world and how I process what those events mean versus what they could mean to inform the stories that I'm drawn to. And I do this because in my real life as a writer, as a poet, at times, as a playwright, always, you might be surprised by how much I really have to depend on research. And it's across many, many, many fields, many different livelihoods and passions, sometimes extended forms that take a long time, sometimes very short and still in-depth bits of research, such as telling a personal story, crafting it for the stage. I often bug my Uncle Larry quite a bit about why he says the Southernisms that he says. They rattles off the brain quite often. And let's see, as of today, I'm headed into 7 years of constant research on my play about Bob and the Tree, called Bob and the Tree, about Walter Anderson. The difference being that there, of course, I'm telling a story that is someone else's, right? I'm adapting it from their life to the stage, and it is involved. It has quite a bit of vetting the research, of fact checking, of trail following, of permission waiting. And it seems like it's never going to end at times. You get a little down perhaps, but if the goal is to make sure that what you're after is beyond the glory of what you discover and instead about the gain of new knowledge, and I think it settles everything else into place. Although when you consider how big the picture of research in that regard is, well, no wonder it's so tall in order to address. But if you'll indulge me just a couple of more minutes, I would share with you why I'm excited about what you are doing. Even if I'm not in speech pathology and I'm not in the biology, if I'm not in whatever your focus may be, you're looking at a playwright. And as a playwright, I'm tasked with representing the world around me. I need to know a little bit about a lot of things. And that's where you come in. This is what it truly excites me about it, because if I'm being quite honest, I can't really do my job without you. Because the theater, the stage, if you will, remember, I'm still trying this metaphor of the scene I'm playing, so stick with me. Well, the plays that we build and the stories that we craft specifically for the stage are done so because they reflect you. And when they reflect the people, every audience is different. Every story can be different. These crafted plays have to be able to change and stretch and bend and grow as they are fed fiction, as they are fed fact and taking their shape. And they do that best in the world of theater because it is a living lab. I don't wear a lab coat, but I'm just as much a scientist, I feel, as a chemist, as a physician, or whatever the many research rocket scientists are that are out there and the labels they carry with them. And I say that this is important, what you do and how I perceive what you do. Because in the world of theater and in a living lab, which tells stories that are meant to experiment with just how tenable our collective moral compass can be, or testing the cracks sometimes, or filling them back in, that are found in the thresholds of our common and shared experiences, even in the moments that we celebrate. What we do in theater that matters from the research you build and that you discover is we weigh the worth of our own humanity. And so it must necessarily stay organic. It must necessarily respond to changes in research, however scientific they may seem on the page, to how creative we make them feel on our page. What we do is reflected in the lives that we live. Any single moment can be re-examined. Any moment to come can be thought out ahead of time. It's a very applicable and practical way of looking at the research you may conduct, even if you don't become a playwright. That's okay. I'm still one, and I might follow you for that very reason. I might be following one thread of what is interesting in the work you do, and that may be the one line of dialogue, or it may be worth the entire basis of the play itself, like in the life of Walter Anderson. And I guess it makes me less, if you want to think of it this way, as a research scientist and more of a research scavenger. And that's why, truth be told, I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to jumble and mumble some words for you this morning, to try and excite you to keep doing what you're doing, because I'm reading what you do. I'm paying attention, and not as in a creepy way to scare you about doing the work you do, but to know that it matters beyond even the areas of interest you're living in, or the college pursuits you have for whatever degree you're obtaining or the career you wish to have. We need you to do the work you do and to vet it in a place like library. I mean, the word fantastic, I like to use a lot, and the word fantastic, so you're really, I think, in the perfect spot for it. But in theater, what we do is take the probable and make it possible. It's the only place in the world you can do that safely, I think, no matter whether the story is good or bad or heartwarming or heartbreaking or moves you to tears or moves you to laughter. It's imitating life. And who is living that life? Each of you. And so to imitate life in every capacity, playwrights have to be necessarily, sometimes exhaustively, paying attention to not only what we're interested in, but to why you were interested in what it is you're interested in. And this changes per story, which means too much research for one person to do. So I'm thankful that you were doing it, because I don't have to do it if you do it. I can just read what you discover, and then I can tell a different story from that. So I want to say thank you for listening, for pretending to listen, paying attention, whatever it may be. I have enjoyed even just the few minutes I've been here, looking out at all of the fresh faces of the future that I think are impressively poised to put the time in to do the hard work. And again, not just for the glory, but for what gaining new knowledge gives you. It will change a world, whether it's yours alone. It's a one-off. You have to do a lit essay for Elizabeth Bishop on her poem, One Art. It's still due Tuesday, by the way, if anyone is in my class listening in here this morning. Or if it's to change the world at large, because you don't know where research is going to lead you. I think as a playwright, I can say, as hard as it is to make a mistake, I've learned more by making the mistakes in what I'm pursuing than following any set rule. And we are made of our mistakes, after all. A wrong move is still a move. It's still moving you. And if it weren't for failed research, we wouldn't have chewing gum, we wouldn't have Post-it notes, we wouldn't have the pacemaker or penicillin or champagne. So fail and embrace it. You learn, and that's part of doing research. And what you're doing today represents a commitment to the important work that you're learning here at the W, where others only see the world. Your commitment to doing a research project to this in depth and to this extent teaches you to learn how looking at the world makes the difference. Where others are only hearing it, you're learning to listen to it. And that's what it means to grow up, right? I mean, what it means to turn the focus from an impression you're making to the impact that you will have made by the time you leave. And all while at a university that has cultivated a reputation unique among its peers, especially to help you find your way. And the fantastic staff here at this library who know how to point you in that direction. There's a healthy and robust faculty of mentors who believe that the way you look at and listen to the world is a relevant piece of the research puzzle. And they support your endeavors because they know that you matter. And that's why I'm going to keep following. You keep me curious. So you stay curious. And who knows, the day may well come, and sooner than you think, that in my own research scavenging, if you will, I will come across yours and find that the story I need requires me to stand on what it is you've discovered. Whether it's a passing reference in one line of dialogue or not. I mean, we often say in theater, if it's a good show, you forget there's a director. And if there's a bad show, you immediately go find the director. And when all the pieces of a show fit together, no one thinks of the countless hours spent in dramaturgy, which is one of the research sides of crafting dramatic writing. But God forbid if Dee Dee and Go-Go play Words with Friends on their iPhones while they wait for Godot, or you put Blanche in blue jeans, you'll never hear the end of it. But you will hear the end of me, because I've come to the end of this. And I should offer a bit of an apology because I know I was supposed to excite you into conducting your research, but you're clearly excited. You've done it. You're reaching the end of it. And here I am with a lot of extra energy now. I think I just got excited myself, and that's wonderful. I welcome it because I've learned where research is concerned that the more you navigate by the light of what it is that interests you, of what it is you're curious about, and what it is you wish to question about life, the more you will see that what makes research relevant and what makes it matter has always been you. And that is fantastic. I think that research lets you be the center of attention for once. So now that you have found your light, don't lose sight of it.
Thank you so much, Chris. We will get started with our first session, the Muw Stories Panel, in about 10 minutes. So I will pause the recording here, and if you will join us at the other link, we will see you whether in person or virtually momentarily. Thank you.